Hello there, and welcome to my review of Metro Exodus. This is a first-person shooter set in a post-apocalyptic wasteland. Think something like Fallout, and it is developed in 2019. So it was actually released as a Epic Store exclusive, which was actually I watched a few other reviews before I put my thoughts together for this one, and people were saying how that's a big, it was a bit hot topic then, Epic Store exclusive. It's never really been a big factor for me. And for this game, I played it long after launch. It came out like 2 years ago, so it wasn't really a factor. And I actually did play it on Steam, at which point it's been released there now. And I thought it'd be a little boring just to watch me talk, so I am going to be showing gameplay here just from the walkthrough from this guy, MK Ice and Fire. So feel free to watch the rest of the walkthrough if you want to jump into that. But I'll just be playing this in the background as I chat about this game. So, I didn't like this game. I didn't like this game in a plane. I didn't like this game on a train. I did not like this game. Metro Exodus felt samey. Samey. I felt like a lot of the elements I saw in this game I had seen in other games done better. And I think that was one of the frustrations, It's a long game too. It's like 14 hours. Or at least that's what it says on howlongtobeat.com. I played it 2.5 hours, which is around a seventh of the way through. And there is some pressure, I think, also if you're going to critique a work to finish it. And I don't know, that really doesn't resonate with me. I feel like to some degree I can understand it. If you feel like I can't capture the game if I only play 2 hours, then consider this a review of the first 2 hours of Metro Exodus. But I have to tell you, folks, I just wasn't hooked. I have no desire to see where the story goes. I have no desire to play with those guns again. And I have no desire to play the game again. I was pretty put off. But I stuck with it for the 2 hours because, I think that's the funny thing about this job is to some degree you play games for entertainment and sometimes you're playing games for studying them. So it's a balance of both. So this game had way too many cutscenes. It was really obsessed with its own cutscenes, and I think it felt very comfortable with leaving the player with no agency to just go and, I don't know, watch cutscene after cutscene. Like, there must be, hours of cutscenes in this game. And I think if you're going to be playing this game, I would highly recommend you come with another game, maybe like a little Angry Birds with your phone so that you could start playing Angry Birds. Because you very well may start a cutscene and it could be 8 minutes later before that cutscene ends. They are skippable, at least one of them was, which I appreciate. However, I want to know the cutscene. I want to know the story, I just want the story relayed in a manner where I have agency and I can engage with the story. I don't want to watch an 8-minute cinematic about the background of this world and all this stuff. I thought the opening was really good in the train, but everything after that was just kind of bad. There's a lot of parts where you just sort of walk in next to somebody and then your character's frozen and you've got to stand there while everybody else talks to you. And you can't talk. That's one of the shittiest things about this game is they went with the silent protagonist route. And so what that normally means, like that was a big part of the conversation when people talk about Fallout 4 versus Fallout 3. Like Fallout 4 brought a voice protagonist, and so the guy had a voice, and now whenever you're talking, you hear the words he says. Whereas Fallout 3 had a protagonist where you would click what he's going to say, and the people would react, but you'd never hear the oration of that. Alexa, turn off the fan. However, this game has in some ways the worst of both worlds, I would say. You don't hear him, so you don't get that interaction, that building this player relationship, as you would with maybe a game like Nathan Drake in Uncharted, where you have a really strong sense of like who this character is based on how he interacts and talks with the world. So you don't have that, but you also don't have the player autonomy of choosing what he's going to say. So I'm being serious here. He doesn't say anything. You don't choose from a list of responses, and you don't hear his voice because he doesn't say anything. He never speaks in the entire game. He's just like a mindless drone, and they say, "Hey, go over there, go over there." And at one point, the NPC jokes to him. He's like, "Stop with your, the disappointed silent treatment," because your character doesn't say a goddamn word, and it's stupid. It's just stupid. You're like, why the hell doesn't he open his mouth at some point? And it's beyond frustrating. Because this game does have, in sometimes, a pretty compelling narrative. There's some great voice acting. Certainly not to the par of Hades, which is the game we were just playing on the channel. But it does have some really good stuff there. But I have to say, the character relationships are a mess. A real mess. What the hell was going on in this gameplay right there? The guy was just... The AI is also really bad at times. Man, the game feels clunky. We'll talk about the gameplay in a second, but just on the narrative a little bit more. The girl who you're hanging out with in this game is your wife. And I don't think I kissed her once. It didn't feel like my wife. Not to say that kissing her makes the difference, right? But I feel that it just felt like just another one of my buddies, just another person holding a gun running around with me. And it was just so silly. And like, I'm the only person in this village of like 15 people who has a wife. She's the only woman in the entire game until you get out of the city. And it's like, I don't know, it was just so dumb. I have to say, though, that the story is based on some really cool lore. I mean, yes, we've seen it brought to life in Fallout, but at the end of the day, like, this is it's a cool place to set a story, you know, a post-apocalyptic wasteland. It's a fun vibe. And I definitely and they had some really great set pieces. I mean, these guys are obsessed with cutscenes, and I could kind of see why, because they did have a few moments in the story that were really well designed. There's one in particular where you're sort of paddling through this little rowboat, and after that it was really janky. But there was a moment there where it had like a vivid cinematic experience, similar to the sort of moments you would experience in That Dragon Cancer, or the Vanishing of Ethan something, whatever his name is. You did have a little bit of those. Damn it, what is it called? Edith Finch. That's the Edith Finch. I don't remember the other words, but Edith Finch. Those kind of cutscenes. You did have that vibe at some point, and that's a really magical feeling. You feel like you're a part of the adventure. In particular, there was this great thing where the guy was like, you know, technology is a religion, and I could definitely feel not Fallout, but if you look at the book, I've read the book that Fallout is based on, The Canticle of Leibowitz. I did see a lot of that material sort of translating to the screen. I understand this is based on a novel, I think, which is also called Metro Exodus. So, you know, I could see that might have a different path, but if they were referencing this source material, at least it was resonating with me. So I felt like a lot of the parts of the story I was engaged, but when I say a lot, I mean maybe 20%. And the problem is that engagement just falls off the roof when you're in these cutscenes and you can't do anything, and it's like, oh, it's a mess. But that cutscene where I was able to paddle through while it was happening, that was really good. That was a really good vibe. And I wish they had more of that, where it's like I had some engagement in the story as it's happening, because I just found myself checking out like, oh shit, here's another 7-minute cutscene where these guys are going to blabber on with each other. I don't know. It was just annoying. Yeah. The worst of both worlds, with a silent protagonist, but also one who has no choices. He's just you're deaf and dumb. Man, yeah, there's a lot to talk about here. There was also, and then there was other moments of the story where like clearly something progressed, but they never communicated it to me. Like I just got to the train at one point and they're like, Anna's missing. Why aren't you looking for Anna? It's like the game never telegraphed to me that I was on a quest to find Anna. It just kind of popped up out of nowhere. And it's like, dude, don't come see me until you find Anna. Like, who the fuck is Anna? Like, I don't understand what's going on here. It was very frustrating in that moment. All right, I'm going to jump into gameplay where I'm sure I'm going to go into a rant. So I want to see if there's anything else I want to talk about before we get to that. All right, let's jump into it. Gameplay. Yikes, man. I don't know. I did not like the guns in this game. I saw another reviewer, and he said that he really loved the gun handling. I could not relate to that at all. I felt like I love this map, this diegetic map that they have pop up. Love that. Thought that was a lot of fun. The compass that doesn't port north. That's fun, you know. But man, I love when they do this environmental design, like all these little tchotchkes and stuff that's on the screen right now. That's a lot of fun. They have really good environment artists here. I will say the environment art is 5 out of 5. It's top class. but the gameplay, I don't know. I had some problems with it, man. And maybe that's just me linking onto that because that's the kind of work that I do. But you know, this game has very limited ammo, okay, but like stupid limited. So for example, I had a revolver. How many bullets are in a revolver? 6, maybe 5. This revolver had 3 bullet slots. What? Like what? It didn't make any sense to me. And you have really limited ammo here, but I didn't have enough ability to scrounge for ammunition. I found it really difficult to do that. Apparently, I could break down weapons, but whenever I tried to do so, I couldn't get them for scrap. So maybe I was misunderstanding that aspect, but I didn't find the ability to do that. And then, so you run out of ammo, which inevitably happens. I played on hardcore mode because I had some experience with FPS, and I found it a good challenge. However, I would run out of ammo, and then what am I going to do? I can't run away. The enemies are faster than me, so I have to use melee attacks, and those felt just so unsatisfying. The melee just did not work, and I don't think there's any melee weapons, or at least I couldn't find any. And it just brought me back to a moment in Fallout 3, where in the midst of scavenging in Fallout 3, I got stuck in a grocery store. And it was right next to that village that's overrun by ants. And I ran out of bullets. And I hunkered down in this grocery store, and all I had was like a machete. And I had to fight my way out because there was a whole bunch of bandits here. So one of the guys runs up to me, and I stab him to death with my machete, and he drops his gun, and I pick it up, and it's got like 2 bullets in it, but that's just enough for me to kill the next guy. And it's just enough for me to kill the next guy, right? And I felt that same sort of vibe in The Last of Us many times, where I think they do a good job of parceling out the ammunition. But I did not feel that way here. I would run out of the ammo, and all the guys I'm attacking, like, there was no way for me to kill them, and it felt bad. It felt really bad, because I'm just, like, kind of punching them, and it's clunky, and, like, he's punching me, and I'm punching them, and then sometimes when he punches me, I'm forced into a quick-time cutscene. Oh my god, I thought we were done with those, but you gotta mash your X button so that you can punch him away, which, like, it just doesn't make sense ludologically, because I was just punching him and having that brawl. So if that brawl was expressed by gameplay in this punch melee combat mechanic, why does it have to also be represented in the cinematic smash X mechanic, which is doing the same exact thing, but I feel like I have so much less agency to do so because I can't maneuver my body, and I can't sort of like bob and weave as I was able to with the other thing. So I feel like it's forcing me into a cutscene, which is, or quick time cinematic, whatever you want to call it, which is inferior in experience to what I was already experiencing, which was inferior already to what I was experiencing with the gunplay, and the gunplay itself wasn't even that great to begin with. So I was like, fuck, it was just a mess. I didn't enjoy it at all. I was really frustrated. And why was the gunplay so bad? And this is one of the things that really frustrated me. And it wasn't about the game. It was frustrating me just about my own abilities, because I felt like the gunplay wasn't quite right. And what frustrated me as a gameplay engineer was I just had so much difficulty in expressing why it wasn't quite right. And I can't answer that. I mean, the shotguns felt great. When I would run up next to somebody and boom, boom, explosions, the blood would go everywhere. That was a great vibe. But for whatever reason, when I was shooting the enemies, particularly in the beginning scenes, it just felt like they were targets lined up for me. They didn't really feel like real enemy combatants. I just didn't, and I want to try to dive into why. I feel that part of the reason, and this is just this may not even be true of the game, but it felt like it was a little bit more like a hit scan weapon than a projectile weapon. And this is getting a little bit into the engineering, so forgive me if it's a little bit too technical. But with a hit scan, it's basically just checking, is the enemy in your reticules? If so, kill him. But with a projectile, it's actually shooting out a bullet, and it's checking whether or not that bullet intersects. And you could feel the difference a little bit. It's sort of like the difference in game feel between, I just saw this rendering of Mulan, where it's like Mulan in 24 FPS and Mulan in 60 FPS. And man, it really does feel different. And it kind of felt like that. Like when I was playing Doom, the original Doom, not the new Doom, it's all hit scan. So it does kind of feel floaty in a sense. It feels like you're shooting them, but it's not quite a bullet. It's just checking if they're in range. And it felt like this a little bit. And I don't know if this is a hit scan weapon or if it's that same kind of, I don't know, like dysmorphia might not be the right word, but it's the same kind of like just out of the box experience that I was feeling here. But it sucked, and it just took me out of it, particularly for the long range weaponry. So I don't know what it was. I felt like I don't know. When I was zooming with the sniper rifle, I think it was always like perfect. And I'm used to sniper rifles where I kind of have to hold down to breathe in order to zoom it in right. And, so that if you hold your breath, basically the sniper rifle doesn't sway as much. And I felt like it didn't have that. I can't recall exactly, but it felt like it didn't have that. Just the guns just didn't feel real to me. I felt like there was a lot wrong. And part of the trouble is that I've been playing Call of Duty Warzone recently. And that is such an amazing game. It's probably the best on the market right now when it comes to gunplay. And so that was kind of frustrating because, of course I'm comparing it against that. And so, the gunplay is never going to compare against that. However, I don't know. It just wasn't feeling right for me. Yeah. This knockout thing is a little silly too. There's one knockout animation where you go up behind the guy and you just do this. Bop! You just hit him on both sides of the ears like that's going to kill him. It's so stupid. And then the guy just falls to the ground like dead. I don't know. It's just like, what? This just doesn't make any sense. There's just a lot of moments like that where you really gotta, you really have to, you really have to intentionally disengage your belief because it just seemed so like, what? There was one moment in particular that just really irked me. And it's this moment when there's a bunch of zombies or, mutants, whatever, who are on a train and you've got to jump onto the train. However, if you jump onto the train, press X and use your analog sticks to move forward, you die. Because the fall height is so great that for whatever reason the check kills you because you can't fall that far. However, if you walk off the edge and fall, then you live. And this is critical path, man. Like, I'm positive beta testers jumped off that edge. And it just was never fixed. Because when you jump off the edge, you die. And it happened like 3 times to me, and I'm reloading. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? And then I realized, you need to walk off the edge. You can't jump off the edge. You have to walk off. You're landing the same place. There's no real difference in how much vertical height you've elapsed. It's just like dumb. It's just a lot of little stuff like that irks you, and it's like, like you're just slowly pulled out of the game until you're like, this just doesn't, I'm so not immersed, I don't know if that's the right way to phrase it. There's so many other things here that just irk me. There's this, I'm starting to call it Naughty Dog waiting bullshit because it happened in the Naughty Dog game once. Okay, The Last of Us. It happened once. And it's where you go to an area of the game that is clearly the area to progress, but you cannot progress because one of your NPCs needs to get there before you to unlock the door or something. And so the entire game stops, and we're basically in an unskippable cinematic as we watch our slow-ass NPC walk up to the door, jingle the key, open the door, and here you go. It sucks. It sucks, man. I'm calling it the Naughty Dog waiting bullshit. And honestly, I wouldn't pin it to Naughty Dog because it only happened once in The Last of Us. But then I played The Last of Us 2, and it happened at least 5 times. Where I would go to a ladder. It's the only ladder in a level. There's nothing else to do here. I go to the ladder. I can't climb it. Why can't I climb this ladder? I step away. My NPC, Dana, starts to climb the ladder. And now I can climb the ladder. Because for some fucking reason, she had to climb the ladder first. Oh my god. Moments like that infuriate me. Because they're just nonsensical. They're just stupid. Right? It doesn't make any sense. It's not even a door with a key I don't have. It's like, she had to walk up the ladder first. And that happened in this game far too many times for it to be forgivable. There was one section where I wasted at least 15 minutes looking around. Where am I supposed to go? I obviously I've been playing video games for the better half of 2 decades, right? So I know in the environment art, when I see a ledge, it's like, okay, that ledge is probably where I'm supposed to climb. But I can't. Why? It's because my wife, who I'm convinced I've probably never married, has to come first and then climb up first. And I have to say, moments like that, there's this Naughty Dog waiting bullshit. I hate it. There's few things that I think infuriate me more with level design than these sort of arbitrary this then that of relationships. Man, crazy stuff. Okay, let's talk about jelly. Jelly is when you take damage and you've got some jelly, red jelly on your screen. And I originally saw it. It gained a lot of popularity after Call of Duty, maybe Modern Warfare 2, where whenever you take damage, you'd get some jelly on your screen. And it would go away gradually because your player would heal on his own. And I think jelly on the screen, especially when you're not going to have a non-diegetic health UI indicator, I think it's a great diegetic way to explain, hey, you're taking damage. However, there is one case when jelly works, and it's the only case, and that's when the health heals automatically, so that you've got the jelly on the screen, and then it goes away. If you have a health system where you require the player to heal in order to get the in order to they need to do something, they need to create a med kit or wrap the bandage or something, it doesn't work. It just doesn't work because it works in Far Cry. Because in Far Cry, you can heal yourself. You do your bandage and that gross animation that I love. You can do it at any time. But in this game, you have to scavenge for medical supplies. And I think that was also the case in one of the, in I think Uncharted. Because something similar happened to me it probably wasn't Uncharted. I think it was another game. Because Uncharted, it fades away. But in this game, it doesn't fade away. In this game, you need a med kit. And oh boy, does that suck. Because if you don't have a med kit and you're in jelly mode, you're going to be playing maybe 5, easily 10 minutes of the game, scavenging for the supply, but your screen is covered in this jelly. And it's like, what the fuck, man? It just doesn't make any sense why you would put the player through this where I can't see anything. I've got the jelly on my screen. It's so frustrating, especially after this cutscene where I literally got shot by a bullet, left for dead in a ravine, and in maybe 5 seconds of gameplay, he wipes his brow and suddenly we're good to go. And yet I have to spend minutes upon minutes of gameplay with all this jelly in my screen. And it's just so annoying. I hate it. And thankfully, they only jelly the top part. It's not a full overlay. But you just can't use jelly if they're not going to heal on their own. I hated that game design decision. Very opposed. All right, have I complained enough? Let me just hit the high notes. The underscore some of the main points here. This game has amazing environment art. I don't know if I said that already, but it's got amazing environment art. It's got amazing environmental storytelling, and there are some moments where it hits those Edith Finch-like cutscenes where you're paddling through and you're seeing this stuff happen around you, and there's some short cinematics when that feels amazing. And that is why I think people love this game. Here we are on the boat, and that's fun. The boat felt great, by the way. The vehicle mechanics in this game are really good. Really good. Way better handling than the guns in IMO, my opinion. The gunplay felt off. I just didn't feel real. And the level design was... The gunplay felt off So the level design and environment art, 5 out of 5. The gunplay, 2 out of 5. A little below average, I would say. Which is fair. I mean, hey, this team is so small compared to the other teams in its league that it's going up against. It's incredible that it has done some of the amazing things it's done. And I mean, the environment art really is world class. I think it's incredible that they've done this stuff. And hey, it's bleak. It's kind of grim, and they can get away with a little bit lower res textures that somehow Fallout is still getting away with. But it works. It works in this color scheme, in this vibe. But the game design was not good. In some cases, I would go as far as to say it was bad. And very occasionally, it was horrendous. The dialogue was okay. It was okay. I thought the story was the first 2 hours were just, I think, a bore. Some really good tutorialization, but some like cheesy cliche after another. Cheesy cliche after cheesy cliche. Shot by a bullet. It's blocked by the one thing in your pocket. Come on. We've seen that. We've seen it so much we can't see it again. It's nails on a chalkboard, I think, to some degree. The overprotective father. We've seen that. Look, there's nothing wrong with tropes. I mean, tropes are really good, actually. They help people to understand the story faster because you can resonate with, like, oh, this is the cowboy. We know what the cowboy is, and suddenly we can connect with the cowboy. But I don't know. I think it just didn't connect with me. I'll just say that. It didn't connect with me at all. How many times have we seen our character bashed in the back of the head to fall unconscious, to wake up wherever the fuck the level designer wants to put us next? I mean, hey, right, it's easy. It works, but it never feels good. At least it doesn't in this game. I don't know. This game, would I recommend it? I don't think so. I don't think I'd recommend this game. If you want to play a game that's a Fallout kind of game, you should play Fallout. Or even The Outer Worlds, which just came out, right? And what did The Outer Worlds show us? Hey, doesn't need to take 14 hours. You could build a really awesome game with different builds and class types. And what is that game's complete time? I don't know, maybe closer to 10 hours? And it's great. It's really great. And it remains vibrant and engaging the whole way through. And I think it takes a lot of strength for a team to say, hey, you know what? We're going to hold back. We're going to cut. We're going to cut content. We're going to make this game shorter. It reminds me a lot of The Outer Wilds, which is a game that came out, I think, last year. It was probably my game of the year. It's a game that felt different. It had very different mechanics, and it felt better for it. It was, they were all towards one goal of telling the same story, It felt different, but it felt better. This game feels samey and lesser for it. I wouldn't recommend this game at this time. This game is average. It's not below average. It's average, which is surprising given the amount of resources that went in this team. I think it's an amazing achievement, and they deserve credits upon credits because I'm comparing them obviously against teams way larger. But to the consumer, do you care how many people worked on the game? Probably not. Who gives a shit, right? At the end of the day, it's average. 2.5 out of 5. Would not recommend. If you played this game, I'd love to hear if you disagree, because I have looked at the other reviews and people feel very differently about this game. Maybe there's some stuff that happens later on where the story is starting to intertwine. That's the word, intertwine. But man, in the first 2 hours, it wasn't happening. I was not hooked. And take it for a review of the game or a review of the first 2 hours. But I have no interest in playing this game again. Thank you.